Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies, where we are close to the end of the year, and God, could we not hope for a better year next year, because 2020 has been an absolute mess of a year. I'm sure there's been lots of those in the history of the realm that we live in, but anyways, we got Johnny here tonight. Jesse is, I don't know, sleeping maybe? Who knows?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But tonight we're going to get into some interesting topics. First thing that I want to do before we do that, first off, check out last week's video. It was really good. Just our bailout socialist. Really good video. We hit a lot of good points in it. And maybe Johnny and I, after we hit up our first topic, can go back a little bit into that and discuss some of what was part of the bailout, the one that they're trying to pass. Secondly, I just want to give a shout out to someone that I met at where I work. It's just another fellow podcaster, Jason, with This Could Make Us Famous on his YouTube channel. Check out his YouTube channel. He does a podcast as well. This Could Make Us Famous. We'll put the links down below, or I will, to his YouTube channel. Really nice guy, really good content. A little bit different than ours. Not too conspiratorial, I guess you could say. But he has a lot of good content, a lot of good information and stuff like that. So check out Jason in his channel. And good to see you again last week, man. But Johnny, what's up, dude? What's going on?
Not much. Touching on your whole 2020 thing for a second, I'm so glad it's almost over. Even though, like, will January 1st really be any different? You know?
Right.
Like, is it kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like, I feel like that's all year for the last at least half of this year. Everybody I talk to, and myself included, are all like, man, 2020 sucks. Man, I'm ready for 2020 to be over. Like, if for some weird reason, like, January 1st, 2021, everything's just going to be, like, sunshine and rainbows. Like there's a hard reset button and everything goes to normal. But maybe, like, mentally there will, you know? Like, maybe nothing actually changes in the world, but maybe something about it not being 2020 anymore, people will, like, mentally be better or try to be better. Like I said, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. If you work towards stuff and have that reinvigorated, like, motivation and stuff, then maybe. So maybe people will bring it upon themselves to make themselves better.
And I think they do that every year with working out and trying to eat healthier, but you could do that throughout the whole year at any point in time.
You can, but there's something about that, like,
True.
Especially this year with that artificial, oh man, 2020 is the worst year ever. 2021 will be better.
I think that when the new year comes, I think it's just something, I don't know if it's like biblical or just something with the stars, but it's just every time there's a new year, it's just like a new start. And I don't know where the basis is behind that, but it's there, and that's why people do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like you said, like a reset on your life, but for like people like you and I just wake up the next day and I'm like, okay, it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. I've never been one to do, like, New Year's resolutions, because I'm on the same boat as you. I'm like, if you want to change something, you can change something at any time of the year. You know?
Exactly. But and maybe we'll get a little bit into that too. But the first topic that I want to get into specifically, last week my cousin Bobby had made a comment about how basically it's Jesse's fault that he didn't have health insurance, right? Because of the injury that he occurred. For Jesse said he spent $15,000 out of pocket, and we've had conversations, you know, just between you and I and within our whole friend group. Honestly, I've had these type of conversations, but whenever I was a manager, it was fairly cheap to have health insurance. You know, it is offered, and this wasn't a big company or a big corporation or anything like that. So it was, for myself, it was like $80 or $90 a month. That's manageable, right? Mm-hmm. It's manageable. But when you add a family into that, it went up to $500. Like for me and a kid, it was like $300. But then when you add you, your kid, and your spouse, it went up to $1,000. $1,000 a month.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. On top of, and this is just me, I'll get down to the national average of what each of these cost. And then I have my car insurance, and I have full coverage on both. I lease my car. My wife owns her car, but we still have full coverage on both. It recently just went down, but I was paying $200 for two vehicles. So I had $1,000 plus $200, and then my mortgage insurance is like $100 a month, or a little bit more. I think it averages out to like $1,200 or $1,200 a year. So what is that? That's a
$1,200 a year.
yeah. Or no. Yeah. So I had 10,000 for health insurance.
Wait, $1,200 a year or $1,200 a month? What, $1,200 a
No,
year?
it was 1,200 a year for. So it was like 100.
So $100 a month.
Yeah. So I had 10 grand for health insurance. 200 times 12 is 2,400 for car insurance. So I'm at $12,400, and then what am I forgetting? My homeowner's insurance was 1,200 in a year. So
you're at
$13,000 a year for insurance.
Think what you could do if you like put that into the market, and that was just in a savings that was increasing by like 12% every month.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and I do think about that. I'm like, damn,
or 12% every year. I should say. Sorry.
A lot of Americans, or anyone and anywhere for that matter, if they didn't, and maybe I don't know if I can speak on that, but if they didn't have to pay for that insurance that much, would they really do those type of things, right? So I don't know if that's necessarily why that we have insurance per se, is because people wouldn't use that money to do the right thing, to save that money in case something does happen, right? But I think insurance mostly affects just ordinary people who make basic incomes, who are trying to make ends meet and live paycheck to paycheck. Don't you? Mm-hmm. So my question is, for the podcast is insurance a scam?
Yeah. So my thoughts on it, and this is all just off the top of the cuff here, or whatever the saying is. I don't have a lot of insight or real world education or information into this, but I feel like to a degree it is a scam. First off, how does an insurance company make money? Just your average insurance company, doesn't matter if it's health, car, whatever. An insurance company has to make money, which in theory, and I'm sure there's more to it, there's probably government grants, there's probably all kinds of other nonsense.
For sure.
But just basic math, they have to take in more money than they pay out, which means that somebody who's paying into it is not getting money out of it. Probably a lot of people who are paying into it are not getting money out of it, which means that they're just wasting that money. It is, I mean, by definition, what insurance is it's something there to fall back on in case something happens. Insurance is a just in case kind of thing. And my thing is, so like, I have car insurance. One, because you're legally required to have car insurance. I do have full coverage on my car instead of just liability. I would have just liability, but the only reason I have full coverage is because for me, it's like $20 more a month. That's it. Like the difference between my liability and my full coverage is like $20 a month. So that's, over 2 years, that's what? 100 and, man, can I not do math right now?
480?
What?
480?
Yeah, $240 a year. So 480 over a couple of years. That's a $480 difference. I have a $10,000 car though, so it just makes sense for me to have that. Like that's one of the ones where when I do the math on it myself, it actually makes sense. And then there's stuff like vision and dental and all this. Like I can go get an eye test right now at the fucking Walmart and then buy glasses online for like with prescription lenses, like anti-glare, all that, nice frames and whatnot for whatever I want, anywhere between $160 or like $500 if I want to get nice fucking glasses, whatever. But I'm like, man, that money that I would be spending on vision insurance or something like that, or health insurance, even in Jesse's case, he had to spend $15,000. He may not have that $15,000 saved up if he was paying for insurance, because insurance is expensive. And then, so like instead of paying into that insurance, he's taking that money, putting it into savings, but not just like bank savings, like into the market, into stocks, where they're incurring a good percentage, a good like return on investment basically kind of thing, where he's making that money so that when he did break his leg, he had over 15 grand just lying around ready for that kind of thing in case it happens. Sucks that it happens, sucks that he had to pay that, and then that the government didn't give any back, no tax breaks, none of that. That's a different story, But I'm like, and then even then, depending on what insurance he got, he would have like a deductible and all that, and you don't know how much he would actually have to pay.
Yeah, so
like he could be paying into it like $100 a month for health insurance, and he could have been paying that for the last 5 years. And then what is that real quick? Let's see, 100 times, so $1,200 a year for 5 years, so like $6,000. So
yeah,
$6,000.
But even then, like if you're not like a manager and you're not working for a company that doesn't offer insurance, and you're going through like Obamacare or state insurance, I mean,
Jesse's a bartender. He's not getting insurance offered from his place of work.
100%, or $100 is fair. That's fair. So $6,000, yeah.
So like $6,000. So, but it's not like they're just gonna instantly be like, okay, here's the $15,000 for your insurance. Like he may one just get payments instead of a lump sum kind of thing that they pay into it, which means then maybe there's fucking interest on it, which I doubt it because I don't think that's how hospitals work. But then also he may have to pay $3,800 out of pocket away.
No, way more than that. So for instance, so someone who decides to be a bartender at the age that Jesse is, there are two options, and really the only option is going to be getting catastrophic insurance, just in case something major happens, you're covered, right? Because surgeries that are
talking like something big, like cancer or
$100,000
kidney failure,
heart transplant, all that type of shit, where it's like $100,000 in a few days. You're gonna have, and that's probably what the state's gonna give you, or Obamacare. Whenever you're single and you go, if your work doesn't offer you insurance, you're gonna get shitty insurance. Your deductible is gonna be $10,000 to $20,000. If you get catastrophic, your deductible will be right around like $10,000. So Jesse still would have had to have paid $10,000 out of pocket, even if he had insurance. $10,000, even though he's already paid in $6,000 over the past 6 years, because he's single, he's healthy, and he made a mistake, which everyone does. And I understand that that's why insurance is in place, but it's in place, and he still has to pay $10,000 out of pocket. So then $10,000 plus the $6,000, he's put in $16,000. So he's actually benefited by not having insurance, and he saved $1,000.
And that's the big thing, though, is being responsible with your money. If you're taking the money that you're not paying towards insurance and then just wasting it, on booze or going to the movies or whatever your hobby is, whatever your thing is, you're spending on, doesn't matter, car parts, you play golf, do whatever. If you're spending the money and not putting it into savings, then you are kind of defeating the purpose, and you probably should have insurance because insurance is a nice fallback.
Right.
But if you're good with your money and you have money saved up and you're responsible with it, most insurances do feel like a scam. And there's some that are important for, like, once again, like, obviously, if God forbid, something were to happen and you were to crash and end up killing someone or causing a lot of property damage with your car or whatever, I get that. I get car insurance and needing that so that you're not just bankrupt and SOL for the fucking next 7 years of your life or whatever it is,
But is that a product of, again, is that a product of our environment? One thing I would just want to say to what you just said is the fact that we were born into this system, and we were taught, like, hey, you need to have these things. And this is the only way. There's no other way. This is the best way, and insurance is the only way to go. And again, like you said, you have to have car insurance. Whenever I was younger, from the ages of like 16 to like 24, I would literally just buy car insurance twice a year. And because once you buy it, you get that certificate that says, for some reason, it says that you have it for 6 months. But that's only if you pay it each and every single month. So I would pay the first month just to get my tags renewed, just to show proof of insurance, and then I would just drive without insurance.
But you still ended up owing that other money, right?
No, because insurance isn't legally obligated. So
I see what you're saying. But if you were to get in a wreck or something were to happen, you would have not had insurance, which could have fucked you.
Very true. But I'm a safe driver, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. Yeah. Like I trust myself, and I know that's not always the case, and people make mistakes. And
mistakes
shit
happen.
Like that.
Jesse broke his leg. Yeah, that's a mistake. It's not like he planned on doing that.
So this is This is the health okay. So I think the insurance sector's. This just says insurance. Damn it. The health insurance industry has tremendous growth and has experienced a significant increase in net earnings to $23.4 billion. And that was in 2018. In 2019, the health insurance industry netted a $35.7 billion over the course of...
How are they making that money? Where's that money come from?
Right.
All the people paying into it who aren't gaining anything from it.
Car insurances, they've seen a net increase, a profit margin of 6.3%. They don't give you an actual number when you look it up. They just say for car insurance, it's 6.3% of whatever they made last year. Mm-hmm. That's how much of an increase of profit they've made.
Which is actually a low increase profit margin-wise for a business. To be fair, most businesses increase more than that profit margin-wise per year.
Well, there's 203 million registered drivers right now. with an average of $1,400 premium per year. So you take the $203 million times
$1,400 per year. That actually sounds pretty low.
Yeah, but then you times that by 203 million drivers.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you see what I don't. It's just crazy, man. But again, I think it's just you're born into it, and there's no other option, right? The only other option is, in my case, what I did was what I just told you.
Mm-hmm.
I would buy it, and then I wouldn't continue it. We don't have any other options. There's nothing else offered to us. They're just saying this is what it is. There's nothing else that you can do. You have to abide by this. And I think that that's completely ridiculous, because now they've even taken it even further with your car insurance on how you get your quotes, is now that they take your credit score into effect.
Mm-hmm.
Not just your driving history, which it's car insurance. Just go based off how I am as a driver. Now they fucking add your credit score? That's insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous in and of itself. Man, the way I look at insurance, I don't want to say insurance is inherently a bad thing, because me personally, I don't believe it is a bad thing. I just don't think it is as necessary as people try to sell it to you. Like the insurance salesman who is trying to sell you health insurance or life insurance at a young age, or all these like people trying to sell 25-year-olds life insurance and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, that money... You're gambling. That's what insurance is. It's a gamble. It's like going to a casino and you've got whatever the house odds are. There's a 40% chance that in your life you will ever see any of the money. I'm making up this number. There's a 40% chance that in your life you will ever see any money back from that insurance, where it will come in handy, where something actually will happen where you needed the insurance, and the amount that you have paid over the years plus the amount that you pay as a deductible or whatever actually equals out the amount that you put into it the whole time, when that money could have been going into savings. It's all risk versus reward, and if you like to gamble and you like to do the math and figure out your odds and stuff, go for it. But be educated about it. Don't just blindly throw money into it as some kind of safety net, when there are safety nets you can set up for yourself to be financially successful that are way better. And now this advice isn't for everybody, because I'm sure as shit that there'll be someone out there who they're like, you know what? I'm not going to have insurance. I'm going to save money and try to have a safety net that way financially. And then 2 months after they start that and they don't have insurance, something catastrophic happens. And then they're SOL. And that fucking sucks. But that's, once again, it's that gamble, and it's how much you're willing to. It is gambling. To me, it is gambling. Straight up. That's what insurance is. The only thing is, it's not gambling for entertainment. It's gambling for like bad things that happen in your life and making sure that you come out of it okay or whatever. But even then, and this sounds fucked up to say, because I would never want to put any like financial burden on like my parents or my kids or anything like that, But if, God forbid, knock on wood, I were to get like cancer or need a heart transplant or something, at that point, not just amongst me, but amongst my family as well, money's the least of my concerns.
Right.
Money's the least of my concerns there. And then you get into a whole nother issue with how expensive the healthcare system really is. That's the real problem, is that you would even need to think about needing insurance for health, specifically for health insurance, because of how fucked our healthcare system is.
So to me, I think it comes down to more than just the health system, and it's just how expensive everything is. And you can go back to the 1940s and 30s and look at how easy life was compared to now when it comes to money. And we've had podcasts about that, when the gold standard was obliviated in 1971 or whatever it was. That it's not just the health industry. It's the car insurance. It's the life insurance. It's the homeowner's insurance. It's just going up in price, just like everything else, inflation, because we're printing money at an alarming rate. And I think that would be the only reason why those things are going up in prices, because we're printing more money when you add more money to the currency. But anyways,
and because people will pay. That's the thing. If people continue to pay, it will continue to. It's like any product. If you sell black boxes, that's what you sell. That's your product. It's a little styrofoam black box, and it cost you $1 to make, and you can sell it for $5 and make a $4 profit. But everybody's buying them. They're selling like fucking hotcakes, and now you can sell them for $7 a piece, and everybody's still buying them. Now you can sell them for $10 a piece.
So there's an issue, and maybe it is capitalism. And I know we talked about how capitalism is inherently probably the best system, but is it really? Because whenever this happens, you see an increase in cars and how expensive cars are. And whenever the cost of cars go up, you're going to see the cost of insurance go up on cars, because if you're going to wreck $100,000 car, that's going to be pretty expensive to fix, and those insurance companies have to shell out money for that. And to me, it only makes sense if things were cheaper and things weren't so expensive that at its core, would you really need to have insurance if things weren't so damn expensive? And I'm trying to think in my head, what would be a better alternative than what we're faced with now? And the only thing that really made sense to me is maybe not necessarily just like the tax system that we have now, but just something simple as to where each person in the United States pays $1, right? Once or pays. I don't know how it would work. But if each person in the United States paid $1, that's 330 million people. That's $330 million. Let's say you times that by 365 days a year. It's some absurd amount of money, like $120 billion, something like that. And then that money is there just in case if someone gets in a wreck, and there's a lot of accidents in the United States, that's where that money would go towards. Like, people pay $1 a day for car insurance.
You're getting into some socialism, by the way.
Because, I know,
no,
man.
because you're dealing with people who I pay insurance, so
but we're already
whenever I get into trouble, it should pay for it. But this jackass over here doesn't input his amount, so why should my money go to help him? You're getting into some man.
I'm just trying to think of an alternate, man, because to me, like I said, like things are getting more expensive each and every single year, and that's not going to change. It's not going to change at all. And the automobile dealerships are making an absurd amount of money. These insurance companies are making an absurd amount of money.
People continue to buy, though. That's the thing.
I know, and it's always choice, right? It's always choice. But this is the system that we're brought into, man. And it's just like, I know we're beyond the point of turning back, right? So in my head, it's just hard to understand that. And I don't know why, but my head still is like geared towards trying to figure out other alternatives and trying to spread that message to other people.
And I think that's all we can do at this point, to be honest. We've talked about between you, me, and Jesse, we've talked about a lot of different things on this podcast. Anywhere from just some of the dumbest shit to some actual somewhat intelligent conversations, I assume. We've talked about war and viruses and all kinds of just different stuff here and there, And the one thing that I feel like we've always tried to express or get out there is the fact that just to educate yourself somewhat, and I don't mean educate like schooling. I mean, think before you jump. Think before you leap. Think about every kind of decision you're making. Did you buy into this? Did you get this car because you really, really loved it and you wanted it, and it was worth you after interest and after 6 years paying $38,000 for a $27,000 car? Was that worth it? Which that $27,000 car was not worth $27,000 after you drove it off the lot. It was only worth $20,000. So basically, you got a $20,000 car and you paid almost double, $38,000 for it. Whatever. Like, is that worth it, or are you being sold on that because of some kind of weird advertisement and social status and all this other stuff that's going on in the world? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, man, not to say like being woke, because I hate that terminology, but the amount that we all are, myself included, sheep to so much that goes on between the government, between companies and corporations, between advertisement and marketing and all this and the new cell phones and cars.
We're sheep.
We're sheep.
Yeah.
We're sheep. And I don't think that we'll ever get away from that, unfortunately. I'd love it if we did. I don't think we will. I think we will always be sheep to a degree, but you can educate yourself and become less of a sheep. You can stop, breathe for a second, and take the time to really think about the decisions you're making with your health, with your finances, with your mental health, with your family, with all these things, and really like think before you leap, kind of thing.
That's some heavy shit, man. Because I think that I always have that thought in my head that it doesn't have to be that way. Like the path that we're heading towards is the only path, and that's the only way that it is. But I think that if people were to really wake up and smell the coffee and see truly what's going on, and I think a lot of people do know, but it's not enough to change some shit, but that's what has made this world honestly great. The third revolution, or even just having the Western style of life, has only been in existence for what 100 years, and even just the Western lifestyle, like we're a first world country, right?
Okay.
And just having the plumbing and having the electricity and having all this shit, like
I mean, that's been around more than 100 years, but I get what you're saying.
but like to the extent of what we have it now, it hasn't been very long.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And other countries are going to eventually.
Hell, man, the internet's only existed since the fucking 90s.
Right.
Or late 80s.
Yeah.
Late 80s.
Late 80s.
Something like that. Something like that.
For its infancy and for how many years that it's been around, I don't think that everything is set in stone. And I think that with the majority of people that live in the United States, I think we still do have a very large voice. And obviously we do, because if everyone stands up at the same time and says, hey, like, this is wrong, then obviously that's going to outweigh anything else. That's kind of what I hope for in what we're talking about, because that's the only way, man. That's the only way that we change corporatism. It's the only way that we change the corporate oligarchy. And they've found a way to infiltrate deep down into our school systems and teach us these things to make us sheep, because you and I are sheep like you just described, but we are a little bit less of a sheep, in my opinion, because we are a little bit aware of what's going on in the things that we do. But yes, we still do buy Chinese products. We still are complicit with buying insurance, paying taxes, all those things, all this money, you know what I'm saying, that we work extremely hard for. And here we are, right? Like, here we are, man. Like, I'm 31 years old, and I've legitimately, my whole life, I mean, maybe not my whole life, but like the past 3 years, man, like $30,000.
That's a big difference. My whole life, well, maybe just the past 3 years. That's a big.
I mean, being a general manager at a restaurant, and to spend like $30,000 in 3 years on health insurance, like, that's insane. $30,000, money that I will never see, and we never had any hardcore like health issues.
Once again, that's a gamble, though, because God forbid something were to happen to you,
right,
your wife, or your kids. Like,
but I mean, at that point, maybe is that God's plan? I know that's a different type of conversation. And like, I grew up like barely going to the doctors, and when I went to the doctors as a kid, like, it was just for a checkup.
Drink clear fluids and get rest.
Yeah,
that's what, like, 90% of the time you go to a doctor for something that's not life, like, altering, catastrophic, they're going to tell you to drink clear fluids and get some rest.
That's it. When you have the flu, that's what they tell you.
Yeah,
they
be healthy.
Give you some Tamiflu or some shit like that they're going to charge you an arm and leg for it. And I don't know, man. And it is a gamble, you're right, but it's a gamble that I'm willing to take at this point, because I can't just bow down and pay $10,000 a year. Like, that's insane to me. On top of the $2,400 a month for my car insurance for both me and my wife's car, and on top of the $1,200 I'm paying for my homeowner's insurance. Like you said, you're never going to get that money back. You'll never. When are you going to see that money? The only time you see that money back is if something catastrophic happens, or if I accidentally light a fire in my house, I'd forget to blow out a candle, my house burns down. At that point, it pays off, and I understand that that's why it's there. So is it not so much about the individual as it is about the population, right? That's what insurance is. When you have 330 million people that live in one country, crazy shit's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, shit's always going to... Man, if you think nothing's ever going to happen to you, something's always going to happen. I had a house burn down when I was a kid. Yeah, our house completely pretty much got destroyed. Luckily, my mom had insurance, whatever. So I think when I said it came to gambling, and I said educate yourselves and do the math yourself, like I said, I pay car insurance right now. It is worth it to me. It makes sense. I rent a home. I do not pay renter's insurance, even though renter's insurance is super cheap. It's like $20 a month or something like that. Maybe even less. $20, maybe less a month. But I don't care about paying into something where I will most likely never see that $20 a month, even though that's nothing. That's, whatever, $240 a year. Even though that in the long span of things is barely anything, a couple of days at work, I don't want to pay into that, because there's nothing in my home that I'm not okay with, like, getting. I have a computer and some chairs and a bed and a TV and stuff. Like, there's nothing in there that's worth me submitting and saying, I'm just going to give a little bit of my paycheck away to this company every month, just in case.
But don't you think that
in case.
Don't you think there could be better systems in place?
Oh, yeah. I don't know those systems. I don't know. I'm trying to, I guess we're looking at it in two different ways.
I know I know what you're saying, man. I get it.
No, I'm not saying there's a problem with that. I think we're both not looking at it in different ways. We're highlighting different things about it. Like, you're focused on changing the system and what can we do to make it better and all this. And I guess right now I'm more talking to the audience about not changing the system and all this, but educating yourselves and working within the system and understanding when you need to pay, when you don't need to pay, making your own decision instead of just believing something and buying into it.
Right.
If you want to have insurance, be my guest. I do not believe it is inherently evil. Have insurance. But know that you want it. Don't just be persuaded by an advertisement or by me or by anybody else. Know within yourself that that is what you want to do.
This was something that
I think right now we don't. As people, I think a lot of people don't know that this is something they want when they make these decisions. They just do it because it's the social norm or because they saw an advertisement and subconsciously they got affected by that. And
yeah, the elites are really good at what they do, and they put things in place to make us do
it's like
the
people
things
who
that we
buy a
do.
security system. You know what you can do? Pay $10 at a sign store and get an ADT sign and then just put that in your front yard. That does the same job as all the fucking
For the
locks and
most
bells
part.
and whistles.
Yeah. I would say 90% of the time.
90%, yeah.
I think what triggered me tonight was not only the comment that Bobby made to Jesse last week, but it was also when I was watching football today, and I'm just seeing these State Farm commercials, and they have so many. Honestly, they really do. They have way too many, in my opinion. I know that
They all do. State Farm, Liberty. I saw Liberty
Yeah.
Mutual over and over. Wait,
Yeah,
is that insurance?
Progressive, yeah. Liberty Mutual is, yeah, and Progressive as well. And I think Progressive's the number one auto insurance, if I read correctly when I was looking it up. But I'm like, maybe if they had less ads going out, then maybe our car rate insurances could go down just a little bit.
But then they wouldn't sell as much and they wouldn't make money. That's the other thing that you got to realize. The insurance company is not out for you. They are a for-profit organization. They are there to make money. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, people are paying into it, and you told me earlier about how much the numbers had changed over the years. The insurance companies are making hand over fist every year off of people, which means, like I said, it's gambling. It is like a casino. Casinos aren't going broke anytime soon from paying out people jackpots and from paying out people when you're playing craps and you go in with $200 for the night and you end up walking out with $320. Congrats, you made $120. You're not breaking the bank of the casino. They're taking money from so many people. And insurance is the same way, in my opinion. Maybe I'm looking at it dumb, and if someone knows a lot about it, educate me. Let me know in the comments. I would like to know more about it. But it seems to me that it is, once again, I'm reiterating myself, but a gamble. It's not something that you have to.
It really is, and I'm reiterating myself. I think that, and maybe not so much. I think that we need to be taught at a very young age, maybe like in early high school, because we have these public platforms where there are a massive amount of kids that are getting taught certain subjects, and one of the things that you don't get taught unless you take a financial class are the implications of what life is and what life is meant to be. And we're really a big proponent on education, and I don't think that it's said enough that you're not set up for life after you exit high school and when you're 18 and when you're supposed to be an adult and make these massive amounts of decisions. And again, I'm talking about
one of the first decisions they tell you to do is spend $100,000 on school over 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm talking about just like the middle class and the poor folks here. We need to be taught those things, right? Those are the type of things that need to be taught to people. Is like, hey, like if you don't want health insurance, like let's say you're 16, and I know this is just per se, and I'm just talking out of my ass, but you're 16, and from the age till you're 25, that's 9 years. $100 a month times 9 years. You can pay that for insurance until you're 25 and nothing happens to you, or you could invest it into these whatever. And like you and Jesse, like, dude, the amount of like knowledge that you guys have on the stock market and what it is and what it does, like I still have no idea about any of that. I have never sat myself down and taught myself those things.
And mine and Jesse's knowledge on it is minuscule.
Right.
But the sad part is the very small amount that Jesse and I know about the stock market, the very small amount we know from it, we're both making a ton of money. We've both increased our investments by well over the 12% margin, by well over. I mean, both of us upwards of hundreds of percents of what we've put in, And it's like, what were you going to do with that money anyways? Like that's the stuff that they don't teach you, is saving your money, saving it appropriately, not just throwing it into the bank. Finance is a whole different discussion that we've talked about before, and that I'd love to have a dedicated podcast over sometime. Maybe it'd be a good one for if we ever get a stock market specialist or a Bitcoin specialist or something like that. It'd be a better time to deep delve into finance. But what I'm getting at, the point that Paul was making, is that they don't teach you these things in school. I had a finance class in school. They didn't teach me shit about any of that. You know what they taught me? How to write checks with my checkbook.
That's sad.
Which I get it. Times change, and checks may have been a thing back then when I was in high school. Checks may have been more prevalent.
I'd be curious.
But teaching someone how to write a check is not, even if we use checks every day today, let's say credit cards didn't exist, and we use checks to buy everything. Teaching someone how to write a check in high school is still not important. That's like teaching someone how to pay for something with cash. Like, you learn that naturally.
Like looking back, finance should be required. It should be a required class when you're in high school.
Yeah.
Like probably your senior year. Like when you're 17, 18 years old, that should be required that you do that. And they need to teach you about mortgages, renting, buying cars,
insurance,
college, just the financial implications.
Loans, interest.
Everything, man. Everything. That
They
shit
don't
needs
teach
to
you.
be taught.
Man, if you learn the difference between an unsubsidized and a subsidized loan, or like paying back into a premium compared to paying where you're still gaining interest, which I don't remember what that one is called. All that, like, I guarantee you didn't learn that shit in high school, and you should. It's super important.
The most frustrating thing about this whole topic for me is I'm a very calm driver, right? And knock on wood, I've had one speeding ticket in 15 years that I've been driving, and I was going 27 in a 15, and that was on the road that you live on.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Going to Sagebrush, and that's the only speeding ticket that I've had. And I'm just saying, there's a lot of these people out here,
Which that's a joke of a speeding ticket.
It is, yeah. And I try to tell him, like, hey man, I've never had a speeding ticket, but he didn't care. But anyways, what about those people out there who go, and I'm sure there's a lot of them, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, it's got to be in the millions, maybe in the hundreds of thousands, of people who go their whole life paying insurance, driving cars, or living in a house, never get in an accident, nothing ever happens to their home, nothing happens to them when they die.
I mean, statistically, it has to be a lot of people, because look at how much money the insurance companies are making.
Right.
Once again, comparing it to a casino. You're not breaking the insurance company any time. It's not like everybody who's paying into insurance is getting their fucking money back and then some to help them out in the world. Or else the insurance companies would go broke. Just like not everybody who walks into a casino is going to leave with more money than they walked in with. It just doesn't work that way. And it's the same for insurance. So it comes down to, do you want to be one of these people? Not saying it's bad. You have that choice. You have that decision to make.
True, which is capitalism allows you to be a part of that system of making money over others who aren't as smart as, I mean, maybe not as smart, but they're more inclined to develop their knowledge in these areas and then make more money, as opposed to people who go their whole life for money isn't shit.
You okay, bro?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're about to like throw up.
No, I just had some hiccups. But I don't think that those people should be at fault, nor should they have to pay their whole lives obligated to do those things and then get nothing in return. I mean, you go from 16 years old, that's when car insurance starts, and then health insurance now is 25 whenever you're done with your parents and shit, till the time you're 70 and nothing happens to your car, your health, or your house. That's an insane amount of money. It's a lot of money for just one person. Now times that by a couple million. Like you said, that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's a big Ponzi scheme.
Like I said, I wouldn't have full coverage on my car if it wasn't for the fact that I've done the math and it's literally cheap enough that it makes sense. I've done the math and it's cheap enough that it makes sense. And even then, I still don't like it because I'm like,
but if you trusted yourself as a driver, right, and you gambled and you're like, dude, like my Camaro's fine, like I'm gonna drive it, I don't want insurance. Someone hits you, like they have insurance, so you're good.
But what if they hit me and then they run away?
Then either way, it doesn't matter. Well, yeah.
No, my insurance would still pay for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
That's part of the, liability I do understand, because God forbid, once again, insurance, you can't talk about insurance without knocking on wood every fucking 20 seconds, honestly. Jesus.
No shit.
But God forbid I was to get into an accident and harm someone or destroy part of a business or drive through a wall or whatever it is, then I understand insurance there to help those people that I have harmed, because I do not have the money myself to be responsible to help them. So yes, I agree with me as a choice. I agree that I pay into at least the liability aspect of it. Other than that though, man, if it would suck for my $10,000 car to fucking blow up, but I don't fucking need full coverage on that. I'm saving up money, and if God forbid something happened and my car fucking kaputted, I can buy another one because I've been good with my money.
Yeah, no, that's some good shit,
man. When I bought it, they tried to get you on some shit, trying to throw in insurance and all this. And I remember the guy telling me over and over, which he's just trying to, once again, they're pushy salesmen. He's like, man, are you sure you don't want to get this insurance? Bro, you're buying a car with 102,000 miles on it. Like, the engine could go out. Like, you sure you don't want it? And I'm thinking to myself, what, are you selling me a lemon? Is that what you're saying? Like, you're selling me a shitty car on purpose? He's like, no, just, the car's, like, there's a lot of miles on there. You should probably pay into this insurance. And that insurance was like $3,600 or something like that over 2 years or whatever, or 3 years. It only lasted for like 3 years or whatever it was. And it's like $3,600. And I'm like, bro, why would I give you $3,600 for nothing on the fucking 5% chance my car is going to kaput out, or less than 5% chance? Or I could just save that money, and guess what? That's $3,600 plus the interest I earn off the $3,600 since I invest it. So by the time my car does kaput out, that $3,600 is worth like $4,500 or something towards a new vehicle.
That's the shit that needs to be taught, man. I mean, and we've talked about it, man. That's the change. That's the biggest change that needs to happen within our society, is making sure that people who are going through what is called high school, that they're knowledgeable, man. That's got to be it. And I know that there's no perfect utopia, man. And I know we've discussed this a little bit, but there's got to be something close to it. Not with the massive amount of gap between wealth and unwealthy people. Like, there's got to be something, and maybe it's not socialism, maybe it's not communism, maybe it's not capitalism, maybe it's something that we're not thinking about that could get us towards that type of goal. Because having Jeff Bezos make, or whatever his net worth is, and Mark Zuckerberg and all these billionaires and Elon Musk making $1 trillion all combined, all the top 1%, and this year alone they've accumulated over $1 trillion in wealth. To me, that's the biggest wealth transfer. Not to me, but in the world, it's the biggest wealth transfer ever in 1 year. The amount of money that these people have made, and that to me, and I think that I'm just kind of going into a different subject here, as opposed to insurance. That's something that has to change.
Yeah, and that's something that we've talked about a lot, and I agree. And we all have, I'd say myself more so than the two of you, but I've kind of skirted that line of the whole communism, socialism thing compared to capitalism, kind of like just rode right on that line, And I want to put this out there. I do not think that communism or socialism would be better than capitalism. I do not. But I think that on paper, certain things look good.
And its foundation.
There are parts that you can draw up from each other to combine something better. Like, yes, capitalism is good. The harder you work, the more income you should make. The more effort you put into your life, the more you should get out of it.
Can we say one thing real fast? Can we say one thing? That the foundation of the three things that we've talked about, and we've had a podcast about, socialism, communism, and capitalism, I don't think that those things can ever exist truly for their foundation, because you add the human element.
Exactly. They all look good on paper. And some people are going to look at me and be like, you're fucking crazy. You just said communism looks good. Actually look it up. Look at its foundation. Look at its foundation and look at what it is. Communism on paper without the human element is fucking fine. There's nothing wrong with it on paper. It does not work in real life. And you're going to instantly go to, well, look at North Korea and look at China and all this. That's not what I'm saying. That's a corrupt version, just like we would corrupt it. I'm saying just on paper it looks good, we have corrupt capitalism.
Yes.
Capitalism looks good on paper. Socialism looks good on paper. They all look fine on paper. But you add in the human element, and they all kind of suck to a degree. But capitalism sucks less than the others. I believe in capitalism. I believe that the harder you work, the more money you should make. The problem I have is that the scale is so exponential. Like, Jeff Bezos makes, I'm throwing out numbers because I can't do the math in my head. Let's say Jeff Bezos makes $100,000 a year more than you. It's probably more than that. But not $100,000. I'm saying the amount of money you make $40,000 a year. He makes 100,000 times that, which once again is probably more. Let's say he makes that. Do you think that he works 100,000 times harder than you? He probably does work harder than you. Maybe not manual labor. Maybe it's mental. Maybe it's running a Fortune 500 company, whatever it is. He probably works harder than you and should make more money than you. So instead of 40,000 a year, he should probably be paid like, I don't know, 400,000 or 500,000 a year. Not have a net worth of $116 billion. Like there's the scale just like
How
the higher up you get on the corporate ladder, it just grows exponentially in the amount of money you make when it should be more of like a line, you know, if I was drawing it on a graph.
do you think that you could take away the human element out of capitalism or communism or socialism?
No. You can't take away the human element in life because then you don't have humans or life.
Right, but I mean, there's still
For all our flaws, our flaws make us great
true
individuals and beings.
Very true, but we are human, and one thing that we can tell right now is that we're really good at obeying, really good at obeying other humans and their rules and what they put out for us. But let's say we look at the true foundation of capitalism in the Constitution, and we only live by that, and there are no questions asked. People see it for what it is, and that is the only thing that we live by. And if not, I know this is a utopia, man. Like
yeah.
it's like
which once again, I'll say
what I'm saying is if we're good at obeying the rules of these fucking crony 1% billionaire trillionaire motherfuckers, if we just all live by the same rules, and if we all truly live by what is the foundation of capitalism and the foundation of our Constitution, life would just be good.
It's still, I stand by this. Because of the human element, even get rid of the corruption, get rid of the government. I've said this before, and I've said it to Jesse when I'm trying to explain it to him. Get rid of the corruption, get rid of the government, get rid of tax breaks, get rid of all this nonsense, and just have straight up people trading things for other things. I'm a milkman, you know, I do this, I milk cows, I sell fucking golf clubs, I do whatever I fucking do, and then someone else runs a company and does whatever they do. You still have the human element in capitalism. At the end of the day, Jeff Bezos has built an amazing business with Amazon. People would still be ordering stuff from him online all the time. He would still be making an incredible more amount of money than you because of the human element of greed there and not giving that back to his employees. Like if you work for a business that makes billions and billions of dollars a year, you should be paid higher than the person who works for a business that only makes a few $100,000 a year. Some of that money should trickle back down to you, but it really doesn't work that way. Or if it does, if you think you're in one of those businesses where they're like, oh, but they give me stock options and blah, 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 and bonuses and stuff. Man, that amount is fucking minuscule in comparison. So, no, you'll always have that human element. Even if you get rid of the corruption and get rid of all that, we are humans. We have flaws. We have greed. We have pride. Basically, the 7 deadly sins, whatever they are, sloth, all that other nonsense. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just who we are as people. That's how it works. But to a degree, man, you need to look out for your fellow man, which is where I get back on my whole communism, socialism train that people are going to make fun of me for in the comments or whatever. I'm not saying that you should give everything to someone who's not trying themselves. If anything, though, if you've been fortunate enough and tried really hard in your life and done well for yourselves, you should give enough. And enough doesn't even have to be money. It could be guidance to help someone else get on their feet and try for themselves to earn something. Because we're all in this. Don't want to sound like Jesse right now because he goes down this road a lot, which I don't believe in. I'm not spiritualist at all. But we are all in this together. We all live on this planet, and we should all love one another. Like,
yeah, no, I think guidance is a good thing. And that just goes back to what I said when it comes to education of the youth. And if they were to give that type of guidance to people and people are more aware of what they're getting themselves into when they're 18 and they're entering what is called U.S. capitalism, I think that would do leaps and bounds, and it could create a magical shift into our society to where we do progress as opposed to being stagnant. And maybe we're not stagnant because, again, like you said, the internet's only been here for 30 years, and maybe we're just sitting here nitpicking. But to me, I think it's very obvious what's going on right now, and that's just the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. I don't see any other situation than that. And if it's only been that short amount of time that this is happening, then the goal of these rich elite are people who accumulate mass amounts of wealth. Are we all subject to that same type of mentality to where we wouldn't care and we would just do what we want to do and we want to build our business and we just forget about everyone else?
it comes down to the individual.
It's very true, but and I would have to look at a list of like the top billionaires, but what have they done to change anything when it comes to important shit like education reform and government reform and not having lobbyists involved with elections and shit like that? Like, you don't see that. None of that shit has ever happened.
But they've done studies and shown that, like, on personality tests and all this, that most of these, not all, but the majority of all of these billionaires, millionaires, even, millionaires and stuff, these people who make it far in these corporations and build these corporations and stuff, have a level of psychopathy or psychopathy, however you say the word, to them, which is needed to even achieve that. I don't have that level in me, so, like, I'm going to try to achieve stuff, but there's always going to be that part of me that wants to help other people. So I may never even make it to the position where I'm able to help other people because I have that flaw.
So to me, that's what that suggests is the fact that capitalism, socialism, and all the types of whatever isms, not all isms, but you know what I'm saying, it's in order to be at the top, you have to have a certain thing about you when it comes to your psyche, and you have to be kind of a psychopath a little bit in order to want that control. And with that control comes large amounts of wealth that you're handing over to a psychopath. Granted, they've created good things that we all enjoy, but is it worth it for the rest of the 99% or the 95% or whatever it is to endure what they have to endure? Mentally and physically. We have it better mentally and physically than some other places, most other countries. But what I would tell anyone who wants to come to America and live the American dream, yes, you have those opportunities that we just discussed, but that's for a very small percentage of people. And if you come to America and then you live the American dream, and I know it could be way, way worse in the country that you live in, but mentally, the fucking mind fuck that you go through as an American is deep.
Yeah, this is pretty bad.
It's deep, and I think people shortfall that, man. And I don't think that people give that enough credit. Not that I want it to have credit, but like, dude, living the day to day and just being average, and not that it's bad, man. Like, I don't care that I'm not a millionaire or a billionaire. Would I like it? Sure, why not? I like to think that I would give back, but it is tough. It's not the easiest thing to do. Is live in this Western first world type mentality.
It's all relative, too. To anybody out there being like, oh, stop crying. You don't live in a country where your arm gets blown off by landmines. And, oh, man, you don't live in the fucking ghetto where you're worried about getting shot every day. And you're not trying to raise 7 kids without a fucking significant other or all this and blah, blah. It's all relative, man. There's people who make millions of dollars are having hardships, believe it or not. People who make millions of dollars are having hardships. People like myself who make like 35, fucking 40 a year are having hardships. And people who make fucking 10,000 or less are living in a different country where there's fucking constant war having hardships. And they're on different levels with different things. It's all relative to your experiences in life. So I'm still allowed to complain is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Wonderfully said, honestly. I mean, that's just where I'm at, man. It's just crazy.
Crazy world we live in, man.
It is.
And you talk about education and that there's so I feel like we've digressed off the initial topic of insurance anyways.
Yeah.
But it's weird because we've gotten into this realm, us as a society and as a world have gotten into this realm of any topic we bring up between the two of us here or the three of us if Jesse was here, any topic we bring up like education, like educating people about finances. And then we talk about healthcare and how healthcare is fucked up and it should be cheaper and all this. All these things we talk about, they all have all the solutions to them are caused by another problem as well. You know what I mean? Like it all links. Like we can say fix the education system, but to fix the education system, you have to fix the corrupt people who are donating into the education system, which means you have to fix, the gold standard or the Federal Reserve or all this, which means you have to fix taxes, which means you have to fix the education system to correct people to, like, it's just I'm doing a bad job of describing it, but it's a web where they're all interconnected. You know what I mean?
It's a very deep
It's like
web,
pulling
yeah.
out. It's like pulling out. You ever played the game Kerplunk? Try not to get the marbles fall, pulling out sticks or whatever. That's a bad example. Or Jenga. It's like you take one piece out, trying to fix something, but then you're putting it on top and adding another piece.
I don't think it goes that far, man.
I do. I think it's
Maybe
or like a better example would be like coding. Like you talk about video game or web design or something. Anybody out there who knows a decent about like coding and computers and stuff, like it's not as easy as rewriting one part of the code to fix a bug. When you do that, it could change tons of other things as well.
Yeah, but just imagine the mass amounts of population that's lived since, let's go back to 1776, and I don't know what the amount of people that have lived from there until now, and then the small percentage amount of people who have controlled the country and the way that it's going towards. I don't think you can compare it to.
That's another one of those strands of that web that I'm talking about, though. Honestly, like out of the web, that's included as one of those problems, one of those needles, one of those Jenga pieces is the super rich. Just like one of those Jenga pieces is the fact that we develop technology so fast and it's changing so like at such an exponential rate that it's going faster than we can keep up with it. So like you talk about like, man, the internet's only been around for like 30 years or whatever it was, roughly 30 years, give or take a few years here or there. It's only been around that long, and look what it's turned into, and look what it can be used for both good and bad. Look at all the things that it can do, and like we just haven't caught up with that, and we're already moving on to other things. It's just then that's the growth of technology and how fast we advance as a society is out moving us as our ability to evolve as humans is just another one of those Jenga pieces.
That's true. I mean, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, because who knows if things didn't shape out the way that they were supposed to, we wouldn't be here right now. You know, very true. I mean, it's not what I wanted to hear, but you're completely right, man. But I think that just with great messages and with people being aware of what's going on, and with everything happening right now, I think that people are more aware of what's going on. And eventually, I think maybe mathematically, it's bound to happen, another revolution. I mean, we're not like pretty to not we're not, did I say that right? Pretty or pity? I forget the word. We're not privy to not having another revolution. And I know that you and Jesse don't think that
confused the shit out of me.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Privy. I think that, I mean, it could happen here within the United States, not necessarily like a world war, but like an actual revolution within our own country based upon all the things that we've talked about tonight.
It could happen. And it could not for years and years. True.
Yeah, very true. But what I'm saying is I think it's leading up to that. I truly think it is.
I guess what I'm saying about that is that.
What will it change when it happens?
Well, the other thing is you say it's leading up to that. I guarantee you there was someone who said the exact same words you just said 10 years ago and felt as strongly as you do now.
What about in 1767? I'm sure someone said that too.
Yeah, no, that's my point. So there's no way to really know when it's going to happen. We can't predict the future. But they always, man, it's the same thing with not to like thump parts of the Bible here or whatever. But I remember, man, back in 2001, I would have been 11 years old. I would have been 10 or 11 years old, depending on this. I was 10 when 9/11 happened, you know? And then over the course of the next 4 years after that, I remember my mom talking about it. I remember other people I knew talking about it and hearing it on the news. Not the news. Hearing it from all these other kinds of things. I remember people saying, man, this is just like in the Bible. This is biblical times. This is the end of times.
Right.
They said we're going to get the mark of the beast, which could be credit cards. I remember people saying that. Credit cards are the mark of the beast. And then they were talking about how this is like the Bible. They said there's going to be there's going to be a great war in the middle of the East, and we're approaching the end times. And now we're years and years from that, and people are still saying the same thing. We're always going to be, there will be people talking about let's say a no revolution happens. There will be people talking about the same thing that we're talking about now, 50 fucking years from now. Just insert some different dialogue. Instead of talking about the internet, they'll be talking about fucking.
Here's the deal, though. I would be very disappointed.
Voxel box.
And not that I want it to happen, not that I want a revolution to happen, but again, everything that we've talked about tonight dictates, or at least in my mind, says that it should happen. And I would be extremely disappointed in society, and this is just my opinion and how I feel, if there wasn't one in the next 50 to 100 years. Because what that says is that the 1% has even more of a grip hold than I could have ever thought or imagined.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you. Yeah, man, whenever I went down the rabbit hole for the first time, back when I was like 18, 19, I watched Zeitgeist, and I've
still never seen that. I need to.
Yeah, you definitely should. Maybe watch. I mean, it's 3 hours. It's pretty long, but I mean, you get interested into it. The first part's about religion, and you would like that, but some people don't. But anyways, I completely agree. There was probably people in the 60s saying the same shit about the Bible. Like, that's another flaw of the human individual when it comes to religion. They want to relate everything that's happening now governmentally and things that are happening in the world to the Bible and saying it's the end of the world. when that's just not the case. We don't know that. We can't predict that. Who the fuck knows?
But it's the same thing with not the Bible. And you
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that
What
a
I'm saying-
revolution.
Yeah, what
like,
I'm saying is, like, dude, I got super hard into conspiracy. Sorry, thank you for rejuvenating my mind. I got super hard into conspiracy, and then I was down that path for like 5 or 6 years, and I'm like, these people are saying Planet Nibiru's coming, Planet X is coming, Zachariah Sitchin, he decoded all of these tablets, and it shows that Planet X is coming, it's going to smash into us. And the Anunnaki were here, and they were mining gold, and they were doing all these things.
lizard people.
Yeah.
I legitimately have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Right. But then I realized, it's like, you know what? Like, not one person has it right. Not one person knows it all. And even collectively, these rich elite can know more than us, but they still don't know it all. They still don't know the origins of the Earth and the origins of the galaxy and the origins of the universe. They don't know all that shit, man. We're all equal, in my opinion. We all have the same opportunity. They're just psychopaths, and we're not.
Yeah. And that's not to even say, man, I feel like I always try to be as non-biased as I can, but I don't bring up the other side too, which is, believe it or not, I'm sure there are some evil rich people out there. Believe it or not, some of these super rich people may not be, man, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example. Mark Zuckerberg may not be evil at all. He's a kid who went to college and figured out a good idea and made a lot of money, and now I'm sure he did some shit to fuck over people, but I'm sure that you've done fucking worse. I'm sure that I've done fucking worse to other people. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's just the times we live it. Like, he could be living a fucking normal life, too, where shit's just happening. His company's doing really well. He's got to deal with courts. He's got to deal with all this shit. He's living his life. Like, I'm not specifically saying that they're all evil, too. It's just the way that...
Their terms of service, man, are pretty
I know.
pretty bad.
But he has to cover his own ass. He literally has to do
Access
that because
to
of
your
the
whole
government.
phone, your text messages, your video.
The government makes them do some of that shit, by the way.
That's true, and no one would ever know that.
Like, you can't... I don't know. It's weird. It's like on one hand, it's like a lose-lose-lose situation, no matter how you look at it. On the other hand, it's a win-win-win if you look at it in a positive way, where it's like, man, just take care, be nice to other people, take care of your family, do what you can to better yourself. Like I said at the very beginning of the podcast, or like 10 minutes in roughly, educate yourself before you make decisions.
That's it.
Simple as that. It's little small decisions. Finances is super important. If you've listened to all this podcast right now, if there's like one piece of advice I could give you, it's, hey, take the time to get your finances a little together, and, you know, think to yourself, man, every small step counts. Like, I spend $30 a week on booze, man. I can cut that down to $15 a week and take that other $15 and put it into some fucking simple investment bullshit app like Acorns or Robinhood or whatever, or in my savings if you don't have a savings account at all at your bank, you know? And just that adds up over time, and then you get addicted to it. You get addicted to saving money, actually. It becomes like a game. It's like an arcade game. When I can look at my phone and see those numbers going up and up the more that I do, it's addicting, but it's a good addiction because now I've got fucking money to do what I want with.
Which is the most important thing. And money's not everything, right? But the steps that Johnny's talking about are very important for you to do the things that you want to do. Unfortunately, that's the life that we live in. If you want to go out and live in the wilderness and start building shit, like, you're going to need tools. Like, you're going to have money for that.
Money's always important, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
it's not the end-all, be-all, but it is important.
Right.
You don't have to try to make $1 billion fucking dollars, but you need to make enough money to where your family can live in this world and have fucking food.
Yeah.
And have a roof over their head.
So,
and you don't need the fucking $40,000 car if you make $25,000 a year. That makes no fucking sense.
Let's end it on this, man. Tomorrow they're voting on the $2,000 stimulus check, the $2,000 per person stimulus.
Oh man, that's a whole nother thing that
we'll just do it real fast, man, because we're close to the hour mark. But
yeah, I have something interesting to bring up about that after you.
For anyone who's wondering, and I was talking to my buddy Trey on Saturday night, which was yesterday night, sorry. And he was just like, I don't get it, man. He's like, why are people complaining? Like, it's $600. That's $600 more dollars than you would have ever had. Like, you never would have had that money. And I was like, Trey, that's our money. They're giving us $600 of our money. Like, they're just bringing it. And I was like, not only that, I was like, but people are pissed for the fact that they're giving $1.3 billion to Egypt for their military. And the list goes on for the amounts of
this money doesn't just come from nowhere.
Yeah.
And if you're like, oh, actually, I did the research and it doesn't come from our taxes and we won't have to pay a dime into it. When they print the money, it makes all the money you have in your fucking wallet worth less than it is now.
Yes. And the whole podcast we're talking about, the reason insurance is going up is because of inflation and the amount of money that's being printed. So I'm even complacent, or I'm even skeptical of even of course, if I get $2,000 and they vote on it tomorrow and they say yes, I don't have any other option. I'm going to fucking take the money. But like $600 is breadcrumbs. And that's what we talked about in the last podcast, was the fact that bailouts are socialist and the amount of money that these corporations are getting. And another thing that we talked about in the last podcast was Trump, and is he trying to do something to change the course of everything that we've described tonight? And I don't know if it was part of the game, but he did deny that bailout. And not only that, he denied the defense bill as well. He did back-to-back denies of these things that were insane when it comes to the House of Representatives throwing a slap in the face to Americans. That's what, 400 or 500 people in the Congress, and then 200 in the Senate, or whatever, 100 in the Senate, that are just saying they wanted to pass this fucking bill. Go ahead.
No, do you finish what you're?
To me that's crazy that even passed for Trump to even sign. Like, that it got that far, and now people are saying the Democrats knew that Trump wasn't going to sign it. They just did that just because they knew he wouldn't sign it. Well, why the fuck would you even do that? Mm-hmm. When people are fucking starving, people are going hungry, people don't have enough money to pay their rent because all these shutdowns, and I'm specifically talking about states that aren't allowing their states to open up. We're blessed to live in the state that we live in because everything, for the most part...
We're blessed to live in the county we live in.
Yes.
Our county's way more lax than other counties in our same state.
Yes, very blessed, because we're still making the amount of money that we're used to making. There's other states in our country that aren't so lucky to say that. And they're sleeping in the fucking streets, in the hallways of train stations, and all this shit. Like, it's just nuts to me, man. Go ahead, sorry.
No, so one of the other problems I have with... And this is all bills, by the way, but I'm using the COVID one as an example. Reading this the other day, and I'm sure there's way more in there than this is... But every bill...
It was 5,000 pages.
Every fucking law that gets passed... Yeah. People don't... Exactly. It's 5,000 pages. People don't realize that a lot of it has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with whether or not you're going to get money. They call it the COVID-19 economic relief bill, but part of it has nothing... A lot of it has nothing to do with that. Here's a random... let's see, page 2,542 goes into prohibited act. It shall be unlawful for a person to willingly or purposely or commercially advantage or private financial gain offer or provide to the public a digital transmission service that is primarily designed or provided for the purpose of publicly performing works protected under Title 17 by means of digital transmission, blah, 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 without the authority of copyright owner, blah, blah. There's copyright law. There's fucking copyright law in here that talks about how if you stream fucking music, or if you're fucking... you're doing something and you've got music playing, but whatever you're doing is for money, even though the music has nothing to do with that. You're doing something else for money, but you happen to have music in the background that's copyrighted and stuff. That's a fucking felony, and all kinds of stuff like that. That's in a COVID-19 relief bill. And this is a problem with all bills that get passed. There's so much bullshit that hides under there.
Well, hold on. So the CARES Act had 325 pages. Like 300 pages. This has 5,000 pages.
I know.
That's insane.
My thing is, why can't we just... And I don't know all the legal jumbo. I don't know how many pages you would need. But, like, man, if a bill comes out, it should be set on one thing and one thing only. And you get 10 pages of 12-point font. And it should only focus on the actual subject matter.
Give the American people money.
If you want something else to pass, that should be a completely separate bill. Stop packaging all this shit into a 5,000 fucking page bill where it's either... Man, this part talks about fucking killing babies, but this other part says that everybody gets $1 million for free. I don't know how we should vote on this. Like, why do those have to be together? Why can't it be this part's about people getting money, this part's about whether or not babies should die? Like, why do those have to be fucking put together?
That's the thing to me, the reality of the situation. And let's fancy the idea that in Congress, things are normal, right? Like within the House of Representatives and the Senate and our president and all three branches are operating at optimal force, and everything's a go. And this is truly what we have voted in, and this is what we're getting. Like, there's no conspiracy behind our government. Everything is legit. Everything's fine.
You're saying if the government worked, how the government's supposed to work.
And this is what we get. This is what we get. How is that possible? That it's a 5,000-page document that has copyright, that is giving millions...
Why is, honestly, the COVID-19 economic relief bill, why is there anything on page 2,547 about copyright law?
Yeah.
What? Like, why?
And it gets deeper than that. There's
and
more
no, and
shit,
that's
yeah.
just one little example that I paid attention to because I've watched fucking Twitch or YouTube, and that comes up because that's important to those people, those content producers. I'm sure there's shit in there about fucking hospital employees. I'm sure there's shit about fucking education reform. Like, who knows what's in this fucking 5,000 page bill?
Do you know how
And
long
that's
it
the
takes
fucking
to
problem.
read 5,000 pages? Most books are like,
Dude,
what,
I have
400
a
or
hard
500?
time with fucking red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish.
But like most books are like 500 or 600 pages, right? We'll just say on average. Who knows? Like when I read a book, maybe 200 or 300 pages.
Yeah, sure.
5,000, man. We'll leave it
Of
at
not
that.
of not easy to read, by the way.
Right. We'll leave it at that. Everyone should be aware of that and look into it. And whatever you find, man, just put it in the comments below, and we'd be happy to look at it as well. Because Johnny just described page 2,000 something something. I'd be interested to see what's on page 4,677. You know, I don't know.
It's ridiculous. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother, but that's ridiculous.
It is, and maybe when Jesse joins us next week, but I think next week is going to be a good podcast. We could talk about that.
We got some other plans in motion next week.
Yeah. Next week, and I'm waiting on confirmation, so I'm not going to tell you guys who the guest is yet. And maybe whenever I do get confirmation, I'll do like a highlighted video or maybe like a minute video just to promote it.
You can post like updates now on YouTube that are like status updates or something.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it, but I know it's a thing.
Yeah, kind of like a Snapchat or something like that.
Yeah, it's literally like Facebook back in the day when Facebook first started, and it was like Johnny Clark is, where it forced you to put is there or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? It's just a status update, but for your YouTube channel.
Yeah. We'll do that if I get confirmation. It may be a day or two before I get the confirmation with a really good podcast next week. And again, we're working on some other things as well. I hope you guys liked this video, even though Jesse wasn't here. Tears in my eyes because I love Jesse so much, and he would have made this podcast so much sexier. But Johnny and I made it pretty sexy.
Yeah.
We made it very sexy, like double D. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now, man. All I'm saying is I had fun with Johnny, man. This is our first podcast, just him and I, honestly, without a guest.
Oh, yeah. I was like, we had another one that was just the two of us, but we had a guest as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fucking loved it, man.
Yeah. And if you guys if this is the first podcast you've ever watched and you've made it all the way through to the end, first, thanks. In option B, congratulations. And then option 12, make sure to check out last week. Last week's was really good. Last week's was solid. It's on there. It's on my list of like top 10 out of the fucking 200 podcasts we've done.
100%, man. Biggest thing you guys can do, honestly, and I need to start saying this at the beginning, like our podcast, share our podcast, because when you think about it like this, if right now we're averaging like 50 to 60 views, and if you and I'm just saying for the podcast that you really like, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But if you
don't do it if you don't like it.
If you really, really like the podcast and you really did enjoy it, just share it. Because let's say we have 50 people who share it, or even 25 people who share it, we're probably going to get like at least 20 more views and more people that will reach out to this community and enjoy the knowledge that we are spreading to this community. So I would appreciate that. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button to all our junkies out there.
Stay a bell and ring the fly. I'm not Jesse. I don't practice this shit.